Hey guys, before we get into today's episode, again, this one is sponsored by Envious Audio. If you are needing some mixing or mastering done, head on over to enviousaudio.com and fill out my quote request. You can also check out my portfolio there. Once you fill out that quote request form, I will get into contact with you. We'll schedule a quick consultation call, discuss what your needs are, as well as how I can provide additional value to you. Whether or not you want to get your track signed to a record label, you need some promotional help, or getting you just on the right track to setting yourself up for a successful career. So again, if you're an EDM producer, you're needing mixing or mastering work, go on over to enviousaudio.com, fill out my quote request form, and let's get you going on the path to being a successful EDM producer. Hey guys, welcome to Electronic Dance Money, your #1 business resource for making money as electronic musicians and producers. Hell yes, hell yes. What is up, everyone? I've got my cup of coffee. It's been a good day, and it's about to get even fucking better. We've got a return guest from the very first episode, Danny, over at Cinco Sound. What is up, my dude? How are you doing? And welcome back.
What up? What up? I'm good, man. It's good to be back. It's great to catch up with you again. And yeah, I'm super stoked to get on this episode and just kind of talk about life and see what's going on, man.
Yeah, I know, dude. This one is definitely going to be, I mean, there's a topic. We've got a topic. It's in the title. We're going to be discussing, actually, as we're recording this episode, technically I don't have an episode title in mind, but I have a feeling it's going to be something along the lines of liberating your life and freeing yourself of the ties of a normal job, a quote unquote normal job and a quote unquote normal life. As producers, though, I don't think we have normal lives. I don't think any of us want to have a normal life, especially if you're wanting to be an aspiring EDM DJ. I mean, shit, even if you want to be a hip hop producer or a hip hop rapper, I don't think you want a fucking normal life. And Danny, I think you have altered your life completely, and you no longer have a normal life. So we're going to be dissecting parts of the 4-hour work week, and the reason why we're doing that is because I actually just recently reached out to you because I had a lead or client reach out to me who was a rapper that needed a producer who produces hip-hop beats, and you were the first person I thought of because of our first episode, which, if you haven't listened to the first episode, it's all about how you can make $2,000 a month selling beats, which is, in certain parts of the world, a wonderful living. So definitely go check out that episode if you haven't. It's a great one with Danny. Drops a ton of knowledge. But anyways, I had this client who needed this help, so I reached out to Danny and was checking in, see how he's doing. And damn, did you drop the craziest, awesome bomb on me. And so I decided to bring him back onto the podcast. So why don't you update all the listeners and just, what have you been up to? What have the few months been for you? And yeah, what have you been up to, man?
Okay, so since that last podcast, like, I don't know how long ago that was, but
it was a year.
A year ago, damn.
A little over a year.
Wow, okay, so
yeah,
it's been a process of basically moving to do this full time. Now, the last time I was on the podcast, I had a little part time that was like a buffer. I would go there like once a week, or maybe sometimes like once every 2 weeks. But for the most part, most of my money came from either recording, mixing, and mastering, and then I was still doing like the whole beat thing on the side. I was still, and my bad, I'm like moving my mic around because I have no mic stand. I didn't bring it to this country. But I'm gonna try. I'm a very animated person when I talk. I'm gonna try to keep it as close to me as possible. But it's been a process of essentially trying to narrow it down, find my purpose, and be like, okay, what is it exactly that I'm trying to do? We've heard time and time from Brian and Chris from Six Figure Home Studio that you want to niche down. You want to be like a specialist. You want to be like a dominant person in whatever you're trying to perceive. So yeah, it's just been a process of elimination. So recording was like the first thing to go. And then we might go into this later into the podcast, but like, yeah, I essentially moved my studio to a different country. Like, long story short, maybe we can talk about this later in the podcast too. I kind of went through like a terrible breakup, and I was just kind of lost for a while. I almost quit this whole music thing again, because although I was averaging anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month in Canada, like, okay, not in Canada, but like in Toronto, where I was living, where the cost of living is super expensive, like that just isn't enough. And it's like you're barely scraping by. Like, that definitely made my relationship suffer with my ex, and also like my mental health too. I was like, man, like I've been doing this for so long. Like, how can I take this to the next level? And I couldn't let go of something. I couldn't let go of recording, because even though I wanted to let go of it and just really only focus on making beats and selling it, I couldn't let go of it because I needed that income. So yeah, after that breakup, I was like, defeated. I was lost. And then this 4-hour work week book that I bought a while ago on recommendation from, again, those two guys, Chris and Brian. I don't know what prompted me to just start reading it. I was like, I finished my other books and I was like, okay, let me just get started on this one and see where it goes. Man, a chapter and a half, not even 2 chapters into this book, I was like, I know what the fuck to do. I know where to go. Like, I booked my plane ticket. I didn't even think, I booked a one-way plane ticket. I didn't even think twice about it. Like, I was like, I'm going to fucking do this, because I was looking at my income and I was looking at like different countries. And I was like, okay, Ecuador makes sense. I speak the language because I'm Latino. I'm half Ecuadorian, half El Salvadorian. I have a dad who lives in Ecuador. And I was like, man, if worst comes to worst, I have like a little buffer in case shit is to fan with him. But yeah, no, like, he just, when I did come here, he just helped me set up, get my own place. And then I've been here since and I've been running. But yeah, no, I decided, I'm like, yo, I'm going to go to Ecuador. Cost of living is dirt cheap. With the money I'm making just from online sales and online mixing and mastering projects, like, I'm going to be really good. And and I'm going to have all this extra free time, no distractions from like friends, family, obligations, freaking girls hitting you up, trying to like get you like, oh, you're single now? I'm like, no, leave me alone. Like, I got shit to do. I got shit to do. So yeah, like that was kind of the plan. And like, maybe I should have read more of the book, because literally like the first chapter or maybe the first 2 chapters of the book are it just kind of gives you like a broad perspective on just changing and shifting your mind on like, hey, like why try to, work so hard till you're 6 years old and then retire, when it's like you can live that retirement type of lifestyle earlier on. You can be part of, quote unquote, the new rich, is what I think the word that he says is in that. So
yes. Yeah. First of all, I want to just tell you how much I respect what you're doing and how ballsy it is to do. I mean, it is and it isn't, because in this day and age, we're probably living in the, I mean, granted, ignore COVID and all that stuff, but the time we're living in, if you wanted to pick up your life and leave and go somewhere else, right now is probably the easiest time to do it. Just in the general scheme of technology and whatnot, it's much easier to do that and get a foot somewhere else. So congrats to you. That's fucking incredible. But yes, Tim Ferris, who's the author of the 4-Hour Workweek, which I've talked about it briefly in other episodes before, but the new rich is a theory that he came up with when he was writing this book. And he came up with the idea of this book. I can't remember the full story. I haven't read the book in actually about a year or so I need to reread it. But he talks about the way he came up with this book was he was in his car. The idea of this book, I think he was in his car, like on the verge of committing suicide, hating his life, hating his job. And I believe he had decided to basically pick up his life and just leave, and went to London or somewhere in the UK, and ended up living the rest of his 3 years. No, I shouldn't say rest of his 3 years. Ended up living the next 3 years of his life there in the UK. And I think it was there that he was writing the book, and he came up with the idea for the new rich. And one of the ways but yes, the whole first chapter, the whole first section, is all about that, about changing your mindset and changing it to this new rich philosophy and idea. And the way the book is set up is he's got this method called DEAL that he basically lays out the definitions for and how to incorporate them in your life. And it stands for definition, elimination, automation, and liberation. And it's a really cool concept. So the whole first section is about defining who you are and like how to get out of this mindset of this same, like we said, quote unquote, normal life that people are expected to live, and fuck working till you're 60 and hoping that you have retirement. Why not try to retire now, become the new rich, start some sort of company that works for you passively, as long as you set things up properly. Now, a lot of the meat of the book is setting up, like he talks about the way he set up one of his, like a brain supplement company, and it basically just ran itself, and he only had to work a few hours a week just doing very minor tasks. And we'll get into some of that in a little bit. But the new rich, one of the coolest things, I don't know if you applied this, but one of the really cool things that he does in terms of thinking like the new rich is breaking down how he makes money or how he looks at money. And I think he uses the idea of a Lamborghini. And what he does is he breaks it down from the entire cost of a Lamborghini, what it would cost to own that Lamborghini per year, then per month, then per week, then per day, and then per hour. And so you break it down, and if you can break your bills down into this mindset, and you can look at how much money do I need to make per day to live, you come to realize that you actually don't need that much money per day to live. It might be a couple $100 per day. And, you know, over the span of 30 days, that makes what, like $4,000? So it might even be less for some people. But if you can get into this mindset and you can build a business structured around this, it becomes really interesting. You start to realize that it's actually a lot easier to live than you might think. And doing things like what you did, where you pick up your life and move to a country that is, the cost of living is so much cheaper, that lifestyle starts to become 1,000 times easier when you start realizing I only need $40 a day to live on anything. And then you go, oh shit, this whole thing became way easier.
100%, man. Way easier. Like you were at, when we started this Zoom call, like right before we started recording this podcast, like, man, you look really happy. You're like glowing. I'm like, yeah, man, like I have no stress right now. Like I came from a shitty dark basement where my fucking rent was $1,200 a month, and I had to split it with a roommate because I couldn't afford that. And, you know, just like no natural sunlight. It was cold. Sometimes it would like leak and like water would come in. Like a lot of my money was going to car repairs, and like the cost of maintaining a car in Canada is just ridiculous. And yeah, I come to this country where, again, dirt fucking cheap. Like my daily cost of living here is probably under $40 a day, man. That's everything included, bro. That's food, rent, like my water bill and my electricity bill here is under $10 a month. Like it is stupid. It is crazy. So, and even my internet, even my phone plan, like little things like that. And it gives you so much breathing room, and it gives you like fuck you money, where it's like, I'm not taking any more like projects I don't want to work on, and slowly like removing services that, like, you know, you may have liked, but you're just like, no, like I really want to focus on this one thing I'm really, really passionate about. So yeah, man, it's been just amazing, man.
Yeah, you know, that you bring up a really good point, and this is a point that actually Brian and Chris bring up pretty frequently on the Six Figure Home Studio podcast, and it's niching down. And when you don't niche down, or you say that first of all, if you say that you do everything, what that says is you do nothing at all. So if you say you record, you mix, you master, you edit vocals, you produce, that means that you do none of those things. You're actually kind of bad at a lot of things, or you're okay at a lot of things. But it's much better to, like you said, be the specialist in one thing. And the issue is when you get wrapped up in things that you might not necessarily want to do, like recording, but you realize, fuck, this is like an income source I don't know if I can give up. It becomes way harder to pull out of that sort of thing, especially when you're doing a lot of different things. You know, you're doing mixing, you're doing mastering, you're selling beats, and you're recording. And then you look at, well, I like a number of these, but recording is where I'm getting a majority of my income. What you almost in a sense are kind of setting yourself up for failure, because you're doing something that you don't necessarily love, but it is your fixed, it's what's driving all of your income. So you get wrapped up in this thing, and it becomes very stressful when you need to pull and rip that Band-Aid off so you can transition. But it is important to notice, okay, when can I get out of this? I don't want to do this anymore. I need to niche down. Let's start eliminating services. When you're tied down to major obligations and major responsibilities, like you were talking about with living in a very expensive area, you need that income. You can't niche down at that point. But when you free yourself like you did and you go, fuck this, I'm moving to Ecuador, and all of a sudden you go, my cost of living is $30 a day, less than $40 a day, I can cut recording. Fuck that. I'm done with that. Let's work on mixing and mastering. Oh, I don't want to mix anymore. That's too much work. I'd rather do a quick 30, 40-minute master and then make beats while I'm chilling on the fucking beach, and let's see what sells. You know, there's actually another good point too that you mentioned, in which is we can briefly get into it, but toxic relationships especially. That I think is something that is, it's in the culture of, I think, every music genre. It doesn't matter where, you know, whatever type of music you write, whatever genre you specialize in. I guess in life in general, there's many, many toxic relationships. The responsibilities that come with that shit are horrible on your, when you have this buildup of just resentment for someone, resentment for where you're at, resentment for the services you're providing, it builds up. You become a toxic person. Life ends up sucking. This like thing that you thought was magical and that you loved just starts to dwindle away slowly but surely.
Man, 100%. And like, I'm not going to blame my ex and say she was toxic. Like, yeah, you know, like nobody's perfect. I think she was actually a great person to live with.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the person, but the people together. When you make a relationship that, in general, the relationship itself is toxic. Not necessarily the people are bad or anything. It's just, you know, when you build this rough thing with someone.
Yeah, I was just going to say I was definitely toxic in that relationship. Like, I was definitely, and part of the reason is because, again, I was just so focused. I was like trying to get out of this rat race, trying to find something that worked, that I wasn't, you know, miserable fucking waking up every morning like, oh God, I got 4 or 5 hours of recording sessions today. Then I got to finish that mix and master. I don't have any time to work on that beat that I've been trying to finish for so long. And then, now like, and then, you know, things happen with the girl. Now she wants to go out somewhere, and it's like, fuck, like you know, do I neglect this? Oh, she's invited me to some like family event. Okay, like I kind of want to go, but at the same time, like I really need to finish this project. And it just, yeah, man. So I was definitely toxic, and I definitely wasn't ready for like a serious committed relationship. I think right now in this stage of life, especially if like you're a young man, like you should be extremely selfish with your time and like and with your energy. I don't think you should be trying to share that with anyone until like you're set, until you're like, yo, like I'm good. I'm actually happy, and I can share this happiness with someone else. So again, I was young when I got into that relationship. It was almost a 4-year-long relationship. We were living together for about 1.5 years. And yeah, you know, it just in the beginning, it was like awesome. And then over time, you know, as you get older, you know, there's questions that start coming up, like marriage, kids. Are we going to get out of this shitty basement? Like, are we going to find a better spot? And I'm like, okay, like Toronto's kind of expensive. Like, you know, majority of my income comes from recording. I can't go too far up into the country, because she was trying to live in the country because she was a dog trainer. So she had a bunch of dogs in the house too, which were also giving me stress as well. All the dog hair, all the noise, all the smells. And so yeah, no, and again, I don't blame her for that. You know, like I was young, and I'm still young, but yeah, no, it's just, I think I just needed to get really focused, and ending that relationship, even at the time, it like was making me miserable, thinking, oh, I'm never going to find someone like that again. Now I look at the bigger picture, and I'm like, no, like that was necessary. I needed that. And I'm so happy it happened. And, you know, I wish her the best. I hope she's doing good. And yeah, no, it's just like, yeah, you're right. Toxic relationships, especially in the audio community. Like we heard it time and time again. Like it's because, yeah, man, like we're introverted. I'm introverted too. Even though I'm talking a lot right now, I prefer being alone. I like being alone. And when she asked me, like, oh, is there a problem going on? I'm like, yeah, I'd rather not talk about it. Like I can deal with it on my own. And she's like, oh, you never share anything. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's, you know, it is an interesting thing in the audio. And, you know, I would even broaden it a little bit and say more so the entrepreneurial community. Because I mean, I've talked about this time and time again. You've heard me say this on a million fucking episodes, and I will continue to say it. But if you're a producer, you're running a business. You are running a business. You're trying to make money doing something you love. You need to be in that business mindset. So I would say it's us as business owners, as entrepreneurs. We are very dedicated to doing what we love. We're dedicated to wanting to run the show the way we want to run the show. We want to run our own business. And so when you start running your own business and you get in that mindset of being an entrepreneur, of running a successful business, you start to live and breathe it. And if you don't set up proper boundaries with yourself and that business, and also if you don't communicate those boundaries as well with your significant other, you are bound to have issues. This is actually opposite of what we're talking about. I am in a very healthy relationship with my girlfriend where she respects what I do. She understands what I do. She understands how much work it takes and how much time it takes. And she is 1,000% behind me, helps me with a lot of stuff. On top of that, I actually had her on an episode like 10 episodes ago, I think, where she's in the financial world, and she came on and we talked about personal finance, because that is a major topic of discussion that needs to be discussed with producers that isn't discussed, actually people in general. And so this is something that we work on together, financials, to make sure we're saving up money so we can buy a house in the future, so we can do all these things that we're wanting to do. And we don't have to. That's one thing that I think a lot of relationships struggle with too, is the money aspect. And so that's something that's not even really talked about in a negative way in our life, because we have our financial situation set up properly. So it's like, you are able, I'll go again, because I don't think you're saying that like it's not possible to be young and in a healthy relationship. It's entirely possible, but I do agree with you in the sense that if you're a young man or a young woman, 18 to 21, 22, I think it's very important for you to focus on yourself. I mean, if you're 18, pick up the 4-Hour Workweek. If you're 18, you should be reading this book, because if you can set your life based off of this book, you're going to be insanely successful by the time you're 30 if you can live by it. And as long as, if you can find someone who is kind of on the same path as you in that term of life, when you're in your late 20s, I think, again, you can build a very successful relationship and a very successful life with that person.
I agree, man. And I applaud you for having a good, healthy relationship. I guess like what you mentioned, like good communication, I think that's so important. That's something that was definitely lacking in my last relationship. And part of that, again, was like shame. It was kind of like, oh, I wish I was making more money. I wish I had more time for you. But it's like I have to like do these extra things to get to that point. And, maybe I didn't communicate it properly enough, or maybe she just got impatient and she was like, okay, I'm not waiting any longer. So yeah, no.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is, I mean, you can communicate as much as you need to or want to, or think you can, or think that you need to. But I mean, the other person is their own person. They've got their own goals. They've got their own dreams. And if you can't meet that expectation, I don't necessarily think it's entirely up to you to meet that bigger picture for that other person, because you're either going to meet it or not. And so I don't think someone else should sit by expecting you consistently to change or become this person that they're wanting you to become, especially when you're young. When you're young entirely, I don't think that's in the scope of things. Does that make sense?
100%. Like, you're still trying to figure out your identity. And you're still trying to figure out your purpose. That's something that's big. Like, you don't have a purpose. Like, you're kind of aimless. Like, depression starts to seep in. So yeah, man, I completely agree.
So, I mean, I guess we might have kind of nailed on it a couple of times, but what was the big influence for you to just pick your shit up and move to another country?
Man, so let me just start off by saying that, like, I'm not this ballsy dude that does crazy shit. I'm actually very conservative. I'm kind of an overanalyzer, overthinker, and a part of me hated that. I was like, I hate that, like, I can't just enjoy the moment. I can't just, like, be present and not be thinking about 20 steps ahead. It's like, no. So So that was something that was always kind of conflicting me in my head. And, you know, when my ex left, I needed a new roommate. Luckily, like just coincidentally, like one of my homies that like has been one of my best friends forever was coming back from Alberta to Toronto. So he's looking for a place. And I was like, yo, this just opened up. You want to move in with me? So, and this dude is just like this complete opposite of me. He's super spontaneous, always going on adventures, doesn't think twice about shit, very irresponsible, but like he just like his life is just way more interesting than mine, just from like that kind of, you know, cosmic adventure bug kind of personality type that he has. So being roommates with him definitely helped out a lot, because I was thinking about the idea and I expressed it one day. He's like, yo, you should totally do it. And again, me being scared as hell, I'm like, and, you know, like I couldn't see myself leaving like my home, like the nest that I've known. And the book, this exercise really helped out. But the book kind of went into this thing where it's like, okay, write down on a scale of 1 to 10, like what's the worst possible fucking thing that could happen. And I'm just like, I could probably get robbed. The Colombian cartel could probably find me and like and hold me for ransom. Somebody could like break into my house, steal my laptop, and oh, the whole show was done. Passport could get fucked up. So like all these like negatives. So I start writing it all down. And then it's like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, like what's the probability of it actually happening? And I'm like, honestly, probably like a 3 or 4. Like it's not. I don't see that happening. I don't see like the Ecuadorian cartel finding a Canadian and like, okay, we're gonna take that guy's money. I'm like, I don't really have much money, so like, what are you gonna take? So I'm like, all right, you know what? Like, okay, so I did that, and then like he also goes into saying it's like, okay, now on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, you know, 1 being like ain't shit happening and 10 being like the most like fulfilling, impactful thing that can possibly happen to your life. Like, would this be like a 10? And I'm like, yes, this would be a 10, because for me, leaving home, venturing out on my own, traveling to another country, like I speak a bit of Spanish, not a lot, but I'm like, okay, this would be an opportunity to learn more Spanish and just get to know myself more. I figure I'm like, yo, this is like a 10 out of 10 opportunity, and the likelihood of it happening is almost a 10 as well. So I'm like, okay, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. I'm still young. If shit hits the fan, I'm sure I can probably like scrounge some like money, put up some like link, like help daddy get back to Canada, and and then like and reset, and then like, you know, still not be 30 years old, and then figure my shit out, become an electrician or a welder or whatever the fuck after. But I was like, no, this is my time. I'm young. I'm doing this now. Like I'm not waiting around anymore. And yeah, it was that book. It was like, I think it was like halfway into like the second chapter where I was like, I gotta do it. And then like, and I just did it. I went online, looked for the cheapest plane ticket, picked a day. I was like, all right, I want to give myself a month before this. So I think it was like February when I was like reading that. So I booked my plane ticket for March 5th. I'm like, yes, let's do it. Thank God, because like COVID started like right before, like right after. And I was like, yo,
perfect timing.
It was, yo, the process of me getting, okay, like my dad helped me look for a place, and then, you know, getting my shit set up, getting my internet in, like literally the day after I got my internet installed, boom, like quarantine. And like, it was like a hardcore quarantine. It wasn't like we had a curfew that started from 2 p.m. till 5 in the morning. You can't be outside, or you can get imprisoned. Like all this crazy shit. So that kind of bummed me out. But at the same time, like, man, all this extra time that I have now, like I can't leave. Like there's no distractions. Like there's no point in making a Tinder. Like I can't even go out and see these hoes. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just like go hard in the paint with my business and trying to figure out exactly what it is like I am supposed to do in this audio industry. And yeah, man, I feel like I figured it out. So.
Yeah, what you're talking about too, Tim Ferris, I forgot what it's called, but that thing that he has you do where you figure out what's the worst case scenario, what's the best case scenario. And you know, when you talk about the percentage of the worst case scenario and you say, oh, there's a 3% chance that I would get robbed and kidnapped or whatever, you can flip that and also say there's a 97% chance that I'm not going to get robbed, or in that you go, oh, that looks a lot better. That survivability rate, I'll take that. So, but I've done that a couple of times, and he recommends that you do this with any major life decision that you're trying to figure out. You know, you can talk to your friends as much as you want. You can ask your parents what they think. You can ask your colleague what they think. But it does ultimately come down to what you think, how you feel, what you want to do. And this is the best exercise that you can do. He actually did I think it was a TED Talk on this. It was either a TED Talk or just a talk that he did. I will go and find that on the internet and put that on the show notes at enviousaudio.com/episode 34. So you guys can go watch that, and you can do that for yourselves if you don't want to buy the book, but buy the book for sure. Definitely buy the book. But it's a really good exercise to do, and 9 times a majority of the time that I've done this exercise, or a majority of the time where I ask, I talk to my parents pretty consistently. I have a really good relationship with them, thankfully. But I ask my mom all the time, like, what do you think about this? Should I make this decision or do that decision? And she gives me great feedback, but almost always she's like, I think you know what you want to do already. I think you're just looking for someone to agree with what you're wanting to do. And my mom almost always plays devil's advocate. So I'm like, fuck. But she's like, you've already made up your mind. You always make up your mind before. And I think a majority of people do that as well. You know, you might have been asking your friend about this because you want your friend to be like, yes, go do it. Because you just need someone to say, just fucking do it. Even though deep down inside, the whole time you're probably like, fuck, I think I really want to do this, but I'm scared as shit. I think a lot of people are in that same situation. And I think this exercise forces you to go, you know, yes, I am deciding to do this. I know I want to do this. All the odds are stacked with me and not against me, as I might think. And it makes it a lot easier to just be like, fuck this, I'm doing it, whatever, who cares? Like, the worst case scenario, like you said, you're going to buy a plane ticket back home after a month. And no harm, no foul. The worst thing, in my opinion, the worst thing that you could possibly do with your life is live in regret and live in a what if scenario, or I wish I would have just tried this one thing. Because when you're 80 years old, 90 years old, and you're on your deathbed, that's all you're going to be thinking about. And when the time is over, you're going to be wishing you had just, fuck, I wish I would have just moved to Ecuador and broken up with that girl to see what the fuck happened. And I mean, look at you now. Is it 6 months later and you're fucking 5 months later and you're glowing, dude? So yeah,
man. I completely agree on all the points that you said, man. Like, that regret, I think that was one big motivating factor too. I was like, I'm gonna hate myself if I don't do this.
Yeah.
And my mind was set. My mom was like, don't do it. Like, it's dangerous. Like, scaring me. My aunts were calling me, why are you going to go to Ecuador? There's a reason why we came to Canada, because it's safer. And I was like, man, relax. Like, it's, but yeah, no, I had to just block it all out. Like, my mind was set. I'm doing this. Like, I'm fucking doing it. And yeah, man, like, I'm so happy I did it. It's literally the best decision I've made in my 20s, I would say. This is probably the best decision I made in my 20s, 100%.
Yeah. Do you follow Gary Vee at all?
Man, I'm trying to like detox from that. I'm trying to detox from, no, honestly, because, okay.
Why is that? I'm curious.
I love Gary Vee. I read like 3 of his books. I read Jab, Jab, Right Hook, Crushing It, and Crushed It. Like, I love him as a person, but I'm trying to like, again, I'm trying to like get so focused. Sorry, I keep moving my mic away. I'm trying to get.
You're good.
Okay. I'm trying to get so focused on what I'm trying to do that like I'm actually trying to ignore advice from certain things. Like, I'm like, yo, if you're not in my industry where you've already kind of laid like a level of success that I kind of want, like, I don't really want to hear what you have to say. Like, occasionally I'll listen. Point. Yeah, I'll occasionally listen to you because like Gary Vee's like instant, like
inspiration,
energy, inspiration,
fucking grind, time to work.
Exactly. Like, you want to get like pumped up, like listen to David Goggins or like Gary Vee. You're like, okay, I'm fucking
David Goggins. Oh my God.
Yeah, man. That book was incredible too. Can't Hurt Me. I read that like right after the breakup. That really helped out. but yeah, no. So yeah, no, I try to like ignore a lot of external influences and really just try to like focus really on people that like have made it in my industry and like trying to like follow their advice, which has been helping because yeah, even like the YouTube tactics and trying to get more people to watch your videos and trying to find the right people to click on your video to eventually buy a beat. Like, there's a lot of like weird information out there, but like just trying to find like the right ones that fit what you're trying to do. Listen to that, put your head down, don't overanalyze, don't overthink shit. I think a lot of like, what's this genre called? Self-development. Like, I think a lot of that is good to kind of get you out of the negative mindset. But then after a while, like once you're kind of in that good positive mindset, like if you continue reading that stuff and like, and spending a lot of time watching those videos and reading those books, it just becomes procrastination. It just becomes like you're just kind of putting off things that you should be doing by making yourself feel good about listening to that stuff. But I think it does come handy sometimes, like especially like if you're kind of in this negative hole and you're like you need that kind of, you know, positive reinforcement from other people, and you're like, oh yeah, you're right, like I got to get back on my path. But then once you're on that path, okay, now just sit down, focus, get to work. Don't spend 2 hours listening to this podcast or sit down reading a book. I think reading books now are like really inefficient too. Like I've changed my mindset on reading books as well. Yeah, man, because especially when it comes to like, I'm
curious about what books you're reading.
So, okay, well, I've read like psychology books, like The 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I read a book on How to Change My Mind by, I think Michael Pollan.
So are you reading a lot of like self-help type books?
It was before, and then I don't know if you want to consider 4-Hour Workweek self-help. It's kind of like, because in the beginning, it's kind of like motivational, but in it, halfway through the book, it gets really practical. Like I haven't even finished the book yet. I'm like more than halfway in, but it gets like really practical and tactical. And I was like, damn. But no, I don't read like nonfiction.
Okay, so I've got some books to recommend to you then, because so I agree. I think I do agree with you about Gary Vee. I think, and I would even push as far, I don't think it's necessarily healthy for people who are absolutely not even in the business. Well, actually, you know what? I don't know. I think he's changed his messaging a lot. He's shifted his focus because he's got a lot of criticism from people saying, well, you're telling people to act a certain way, but not everyone's going to act that way, or not everyone wants to do that. And he's shifted his focus to start focusing on, well, I'm talking about the people that are bitching and complaining about their life, yet they're buying new Yeezys. They're bitching and complaining about how they have no money and how unfair it is, but they're buying, you know, new shoes or buying lavish things, getting a new car. And he's basically, I think his main focus is saying, well, if you're bitching about that stuff, stop fucking doing that. Get off your ass, actually work for some things and get some money. And I do agree with part of that messaging, but I do agree that it is, I think he does sometimes breed a bad habit in people who are very, you know, they're like you and I, where sometimes I'll get in this mindset where I'm like, oh shit, I need to be grinding more. I need to be working more, which in fact, I need to actually work less. So that I can rejuvenate and make sure that I'm working as efficient as possible. But going off of why I asked if you asked him, I think this is going back to what we were talking about before, and I'm gonna circle around to the book stuff. But what I do really like about Gary Vee, you mentioned that your family was like, no, don't go. What I do love about Gary Vee is he is very much so, fuck what don't fuck what your family wants you to do. Do what the fuck you want to do. Because I do think that's important. I still think it's important to talk to your family and let them know what you're doing and make sure if you have a healthy relationship with them. But there's a lot of people I know who do things because their parents want them to do them, not because they want to do them. And I think in fact, I think I know people who are relatively successful, who are in that state because their parents forced them into something that I don't think they necessarily wanted to do, but they've accepted it, and but I think over time they grow to love what they're doing. I think as long as you're happy, that's all that fucking matters. But I still don't think you should get your happiness from doing what your parents tell you to do ultimately at the end of the day. And actually, I had Crespo and Landis on the last episode from Wired Sound Academy. They're also producers and DJs, but Crespo was going to school and like he was 4 credits away from graduating, and he ended up leaving to pursue DJing, and it turned out very successful for him, but his parents were not happy, to say the least. But if he didn't make that decision, he wouldn't be where he's at, more than likely, and he's loving what he's doing, and he wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So there's an important thing in that, and like you might disappoint your parents in the meantime, but what is best for you and what you want to do with your life. Now circling back to the book thing, when we're done with the podcast, I've got some books to recommend to you. I've been doing more reading than I've ever done. I'm reading like a book every week or two ish. I've gotten I've spent too much money on books. I've actually been doing a shit ton of courses as well. But I've been doing more of business books, just straight up business books, things about marketing, branding, setting up a business, what a successful business looks like, all that kind of shit, which I think you would be, I think you would like reading. And I'm curious to find out what you've already read as well.
Yeah, no. So I think I should definitely look into more practical business books. I find that I get a lot of value just from podcasts, because like sometimes like you can listen to like the author of a book kind of just lay it all out there for you with the 2-hour podcast, and you don't have to. And I'm a pretty shit reader. Like it probably take me like 2 or 3 days to finish maybe like a 400, 500 page book, and like really trying to sit down and focus, especially now with all this dopamine. It's so hard to just sit down and focus and just read an actual book. A lot of my books now, I actually just do audiobooks now, so I'll listen to like when I'm on my walks and stuff. But yeah, no, I find that listening to a podcast, getting information from that, I just retain more, and it just gives me like just the right amount that it's like, okay, I don't need to overanalyze and overthink shit. If I got the information, I'm just gonna just take action, try it out, test it out. If it fails, okay, on to the next idea, on to the next thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm the same. I'm very well. This is actually why I have to read books. I can't listen to books because I'm very just ADD, like brain's going a million miles per hour, flipping from one thing to the next, which is why I have to read and I can't listen to books. But podcasts are very, very valuable. I think they're still underrated with a lot of producers. I mean, hopefully if you're a producer listening to this podcast, you're realizing how valuable podcasts are. But there's so many other podcasts out there too that are just as valuable. Hopefully this podcast is valuable to you. But if it is, there's a million others out there that are just as valuable. If not, I would argue a million times more valuable, like the Six Figure Home Studio podcast. The amount of value in that, I mean,
amazing.
It's unreal. Yeah. I wouldn't be where I am at without that podcast. I would not be where I am at without Brian Hood in the Profitable Producer course. I would not be where I'm at. This podcast that we're listening to right now would not be a thing without Chris Graham, the masterful Chris Graham from the Six Figure Home Studio podcast. He's my business coach. He's the one that came up with this idea. He's the one that came up with the name. All of the credit to him. We wouldn't be here without him. So, I mean, just to show you, if you think this podcast is valuable, this is how valuable that podcast is. This is how valuable those hosts are. If you should be listening to any podcast, it's 1000% the Six Figure Home Studio podcast.
1000% agree, man. Like you mentioned, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that podcast, because like I've taken a lot of their information that they've given on that podcast, applied it to my own website, applied it to the way I would cold approach people, applied it to even now, like I'm in the process. Well, actually, I just hired an assistant. So I'm still training her. So all these things that I've learned from that podcast, and also like the book recommendations. So I've read, the Go Giver, and I'm still thinking about that book, that mentality.
I apply the Go Giver every single fucking day in everything I do. The Go Giver, again, a book I just recommended last episode. I think I recommend that book monthly. It is so good.
Yeah, man, that one and the E-Myth Revisited. Every goddamn entrepreneur's got to read that shit. That shit, dude. Everyone's got to read that shit, bro. That is like straight fire, man.
I've been recommending the E-Myth Revisited for like 2 months now. I've got it right here, right next to me. Crespo, who I've been working with, Gino and Carlos over at Los Padres. You guys know these guys if you're listening. They've been on the last few episodes. Gino just bought the book and he's just read the first chapter yesterday. I was telling Crespo, I was like, dude, you need to this is a book you should be starting with. It is the one thing that's going to make you successful as any small business or any entrepreneur is the E-Myth Revisited. Actually taking that book seriously. Like you said, practical business books that you can apply that are going to actually make you successful. They're so fucking important. There was something else I was going to mention too in regards to that, I think. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, the Go Giver. Fuck, the Go Giver's so good. Anyways, sorry. This podcast is probably mostly going to be, I don't know what I'm going to title this podcast. It's got to be something good because we're going off on these, just making just creating a healthy lifestyle. I think that's making a healthy lifestyle as a producer. This is all stuff we're talking about here and ways you can create that lifestyle.
Yeah, man. Like, and even it goes beyond that, man. Like being here in isolation has given me a lot of time to do like a lot of research and things that I've been very interested in, but maybe didn't have enough time to look into while I was grinding it out in Toronto. So like things like diet, for example, things like going on a dopamine detox, like things that I've never heard about that like I've been able to like really dive into and like really like learn more about. So man, like things like fixing your gut. Like I'm on a carnivore diet right now and I feel fucking incredible. I feel incredible. Like, and you know what? My diet before, arguably very healthy. I mean, I was no processed foods, all whole food, mostly steak, eggs, like lots of greens, like spinach, like green peppers and whatnot, just really healthy shit. But I always felt like crap. I'm like, what's going on with me? Like, and it turns out that like, I think I have IBS. I think I have like an intolerance to fiber. And because I wasn't eating grains like rice or bread and stuff, like I was never digesting properly. I always felt like I had brain fog, and I was like, man, like I you know, was messing up my mental health. I decided to just go on like a carnivore diet, just cut it all out, and then immediately I was like, whoa, my sleep is better. I feel like my testosterone's gone up too. Like I just feel a lot, and then you have a lot more like balanced energy too. Like there's no more crashes throughout the day. There's no more like midday crash where I'm like, oh, I feel sluggish and tired. I better make another cup of coffee or take a nap. No, there's no more naps anymore. It's like, no, I just want to work more now. And like, so something as simple as literally fixing and healing your gut. And then also like, you know, fixing your sleep too. Like I was sleeping in this room that had like no curtains and like the wind, like the light was fucking up. Like it was not creating any like melatonin release. So yeah, I got these blackout curtains. Boom, I was knocked out like a baby. I'm feeling like a lot better now too. Yeah, like again, like a lifestyle as a producer, like, we're sitting down a lot, and sitting down is like cancer, man. This is like horrible for you. And like learning about like going on walks. Like now after every meal, I go for a walk. It's supposed to help with insulin sensitivity. It helps help you digest your food better.
Shit.
Yeah, man. Yo, I would highly recommend people look into like the Vertical Diet by Stan Efferding. He kind of goes more into about that, and yeah, I'm seeing results, man. Like, I don't get like sluggish after meals. I don't get sluggish after meals anymore, period, because like I only eat meat. I'm like a savage right now, but yeah. So
no.
so if this podcast turns into like, hey, how to optimize your health and your lifestyle, but well, whatever. Let's take it there.
Dude. Well, diet is very important. This is something that a lot of people just, you know, this is one of the issues that I have. A major issue that I have with the way the US is dealing with the coronavirus thing. The only thing they're talking about right now is we need to be locked up inside. We need to be wearing masks. We need to be social distancing. This is all that they're talking about. You don't hear a single person talking about how important it is to have a strong immune system, how to develop a strong immune system, how important working out is, how important your diet is. Your diet is everything. Now, since we got locked down in the US, I was, before I was working out 4 to 5 times a week. I was actually just doing a big gain process where I was eating so fucking much, but I was lifting way heavy. And I was going to go throughout this workout regimen that was going to be like 4 or 5 months long. And then it was going to go into a massive cut. I think it would actually be right now that I would be doing a huge cut. But they shut down the fucking gyms. I got lazy. I got stuck inside. And I started eating like shit. And I have not stopped eating like shit. My body has gone to dog shit. And I'm like, I got to do something about this. Now, I'm actually going to start researching this stuff. But
come on, bro.
I'm about to start cutting out fucking carbs and basically all grains and all that shit because that needs to go. It is so fucking bad. Diet is so important. I've actually, since the past 2 months, I've been taking an insane amount of, not an insane amount of vitamins, but I take a multivitamin every day. I take a vitamin D every day. I take fish oil every day. I'm starting to take 5-HTP every day because that helps a lot with dopamine, I think with serotonin production and helps with mood, stabilizing mood. I need to start taking more magnesium, which I've started as well. So like there's a lot of ways, and that alone I've noticed has significantly helped me in just the way I feel. Now, I still feel like shit some days, and I think a lot of that has to do with not fucking exercising at all, not going on walks, not going outside a lot, which needs to be, that stuff you should at least, the baseline should be covered. You should be taking, 30-minute walks every day, a couple of them, going outside for an hour alone, getting some sunlight and just walking helps out very, very significantly. There's a lot of good research on that stuff, especially with developing creativity as well.
The real talk, so important. Vitamin D, like that's one thing, like they're telling us to stay inside, and it's like, well, you're making us worse because no one's going out anymore. No one's getting vitamin D, so our immune system's going down. But 100% agree, man. Health, man, like when you fix like those two things, like your diet and your sleep, like just everything just gets better, man. Everything, even your performance in the gym gets better. But like that's not even that important. Like, it's your focus and your energy that you put towards your business. Like that's what, like, to me, that was the most important thing. And yeah, man, figuring it out, because I thought I was eating healthy, and doing the carnivore diet is kind of like an elimination diet. So you're cutting everything out and slowly reintroducing things back in. And yeah, like that just kind of helps you know, it's like, oh, this is what my body works really good on, and this is what it doesn't work good on. And yeah, you just try to be disciplined and do that every day. And then I feel like my results have gotten better. Like I can work a lot longer now than I did before. Before it was like, man, by 6 p.m. I'm done. I'm like, I'm not working anymore. But now it's like I can go till 9, but I have to stop myself purposefully, because then I'll be in bed, mind just racing. I'm like, I can still work. And it's like, no, you gotta sleep, because like if you don't sleep, then it's like you're worse off tomorrow. So like trying to literally like turn my brain off an hour before going to bed. I have to force myself to do that now.
When do you like go lights out? Like when do you put down the phone? When do you turn lights off in your house before you go to bed? Is it like right before bed?
No, it's usually by like 9. I start to like dim the lights, dim my screen light. Everything already has like a timer, so everything goes into like the blue light
night
blocker,
mode or whatever.
Night mode, exactly. And then by 10, I try to be in bed. And then one thing I started doing, I don't use an alarm clock anymore, because I learned some things about if your alarm clock wakes you up at some point during your deep REM sleep, like whether it be like 5 minutes before you're supposed to be waking up, or like 10 minutes before you're supposed to be waking up, it can actually like create like this giant cortisol peak, and like that can actually stress you out for the rest of the day and give you less energy. So like if you just wake up naturally, and like my internal clock, I'm always waking up around like anywhere from 5:30 to 6. So like when I wake up, I'm up, and it's like, oh, like this is when I'm supposed to be up, and then open up the curtains, let the light come in, and then I'm good to go. And I don't even need coffee anymore in the morning. Before, I used to be dependent on coffee. I used to be like, oh fuck, if I can't function without this freaking cup of beans. But like
me,
yeah, man. But like if I don't know, just those little things, like you're just good without it. Like now, I just drink coffee. It's kind of like it's like it's like a little treat. It's like, oh, I kind of want to. It's like it's the noon, and I'm like, I'm done pretty good today. Let me just drink some coffee and just enjoy this warm cup. So
yeah. Man, diet is so fucking important. So we'll slide over now. We'll get away from diet, people. But I think it is. We can both agree it's something that you should not take out of the conversation. It should be a part of the conversation. It should be things that it should be something you're consistently researching, consistently trying to change, develop, and make better, because the diet change. Oh, wow. It's incredible how much the diet will actually change in your life and make major improvements just starting there. Let's get into I think it's still fair. It's going to be a difficult question, I think, to tackle. And it's how producers can utilize the 4-hour work week, because like we said before, this, the book's not made for producers. It's not made for musicians. It's made for people who want to get free of the rat race, people who want to travel the world, people who want to be in the new rich and, retire now and enjoy your life now. But that's not to say that there's not things that you can utilize as a producer still somewhat in the rat race. One thing I will say, for me, I'm very lucky. One thing, actually, okay, if you work an office job right now, which I think, if you're working from home, you're probably working an office job. One thing that Tim Ferris talks about is getting you to a point where you're working from home 100% of the time if you're working in an office. This frees up your time significantly if you can achieve this. The blessing in disguise with coronavirus is you're hopefully, if you're working an office job, you're working from home full time right now. I was already lucky. I was working 3 days out of the week from home, but now I'm full time from home. I can do a lot of things in my free time now and during those business hours to do things that I need to get done. And a lot of producers can utilize this as well. If you, and you know, the purpose of this is so that you can become so efficient at your job that your boss trusts you to work from home full time. And with that time, you can then adjust it and utilize it the way you need to set up your business properly, to do things for your business, to make sure that you are, you know, creating possibly the side business that will passively work for you so that you can free yourself up from this other job that's tying you down. This also allows you to kind of move freely around the world without anyone needing to know where exactly you are. If you're working from home full time, they trust you, they aren't paying attention to you. Who's to say you don't have to be across the world all still continuing to work? So there, if you're a producer, you can see how, or a DJ, you can kind of see how this could benefit you, because this frees you up to be able to, I don't know, tour, go around the world and play shows and do things that you want to do. Where do you see, I think that's a very significant one where producers can utilize the book, is getting them out of that space and into a more freed up role at home so that they can, I don't know, finish tracks or do whatever. What do you think? How could a producer utilize the 4-hour work week?
Yeah. So again, the title of the 4-hour work week is kind of it's kind of like a misleading title. He mentions in the book the reason why it was called the 4-hour work week. Essentially, they were split testing Google ads to see which one performed better, and it turns out the number 4-hour work week performed better than 2-hour work week or 8-hour work week or 10-hour. So the whole point of the book is to reduce the amount of time you're working. Basically, work smarter, not harder. So yeah, like there's a lot of like practical advice that you can get from that book that just kind of teaches you how to outsource and automate certain things. So if that's something that interests you, then definitely like that book is going to give you a lot of information that I haven't even finished it yet, because again, like there's so much knowledge in there. You're like, holy fuck. Okay. Let me just do one thing at a time. So yeah, I'm in that process right now of getting that assistant, but,
the virtual assistant is a huge one. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because you're actually going through that right now. And a virtual assistant is, I think, something producers could definitely utilize, although it depends on where you're at in your career. Because if you're a small town, if you've only released a couple of times and you're barely opening up shows, that's not time. It's not time to get a virtual assistant. But talk about what it looked like in the book, what he talked about getting a virtual assistant. Talk about why you needed a virtual assistant and how you went about that, because I think that is a very interesting topic.
Yeah. So the virtual assistant essentially just kind of like to give you more time. So like you can be doing more important duties and tasks in your job while you can, basically outsource and delegate, things that just take time that you can really train anyone to do. So personally for me, I'm like, okay, I want to start being more active on social media. I've made sales through people messaging me and hitting me up through social media, or me making a post and getting some kind of attention. I'm like, man, I want to do more of that, but like that takes a lot of creativity out of me. So I'm like, I want somebody to help me out with that. And also I've done cold outreach using Brian's Bandcamp method, gotten results from that. I'm like, man, I can duplicate this. I can get someone to do this instead of me sitting down doing it. I can pay someone $5 an hour to do this. And yeah, like I feel like the return is going to be better for that. So like, I actually centered those videos. We're going to be going over it one more time. I already set up all the accounts for her and stuff. So yeah, no, that was one of the big motivating factors that made me want to get an assistant, just for someone to help me out with that specific process, to get more leads coming in for the beat side, because right now I'm pretty busy with the mixing side, and I'm actually saying no to projects, but I want to get more people coming in for people who want to hire me as like, hey, make a custom beat for me, or or, you know, just get awareness for my brand. It's like, oh, like there's this guy named Cinco that makes like pretty dope synth pop, urban pop type of beats. Check him out. You might like some of his beats or whatever. And then from there, get a new client, a new consistent fan or customer that comes back and like purchases more. So yeah, that was it, because I play around with Google ads and I play around with Facebook ads, and like it's still really tough for me. Like it's still tough to even measure like, hey, like the results I'm getting from that. But I've gotten results from cold outreach. So I'm like, okay, I know this process works. I could do it myself, but I don't want to sit down for 4 hours and trying to find the right 30 people to message and then, you know, be in constant communication with them. Let me hire someone else to do that. And yeah, that's essentially what I've done. So, you know, just hopefully by like next week, this girl's going to start, you know, getting into that process of, you know, just hitting up artists, being more active in the community, engaging more in the music community, and just increasing my awareness of my brand. So yeah, like that was the motivating factor for getting a personal assistant.
There's a lot of things that business owners do that are low level tasks that are, you know, they don't require a lot of energy. They don't require a lot of energy, but sometimes they require a lot of time, which means we want to eliminate that to free ourselves up to do the high energy tasks that give you a lot of value, that give you a lot of outcome on your investment. Like you get positive things out of it. So this is what hiring a virtual assistant is really all about. And you can hire virtual assistants in India that you pay $4 or $5 an hour. And as long as you properly set up what they're doing, and actually, I'll plug the E-Myth Revisited here, because if you read the E-Myth Revisited, one of the things that Michael Gerber talks about is structuring your business in a way where you create the franchise prototype, which is I actually did a whole episode on the franchise prototype. I did an episode on what producers can learn from McDonald's in their business model, because everyone can learn something from it. It's very impressive. But like I was talking about in that episode, if you draw out what these job descriptions are of what you do, and you write down every little thing that you have to do to complete that job, and you write down how long it takes. I talked about this. You can value out that time. You can find what is the dollar per hour to do this task, and you've got the job description down that you can now outsource to someone else for them to do. So this is where the virtual assistant would come into play. And if you get a really good virtual assistant, someone who I do think it's important that you can communicate in the same language very well, and you don't have any barriers that way. If you can get that person and you can grow with them and build a relationship with them, you can start getting to a point where they could be setting up promo plans for you. Goodbye to promo. Fuck promo. You don't have to do promo anymore, which I think every producer hates doing, but it is the most important thing for you to do when you're coming out with new music. So you could get to a point where you're like, we need this, and that for promo. I want to post on these days. And you can trust that person that they're going to get all of the requirements done. They're going to schedule all of the posts. You don't have to fucking touch it. That is something that is high level of energy to do, but there's a big outcome that you get out of it. But it takes a lot of time to do. So that's something that if you can get to a point where you can outsource that stuff, it is unbelievable the amount of value that, I mean, you are potentially freeing you up of like an entire day's worth of work of promo. 8 hours of promo could be entirely freed up from your schedule, and you know it's handled. You trust the person that's doing it. You can, the amount of relief that's taken off of your shoulders and your chest is unbelievable. You're freed up to now work on your business or make more tracks.
100%. And like this girl also has like light graphic design, video editing chops too. I'm like, oh, thank God, perfect. So like any sort of like cover art I need for every single beat that I put up, or like I told him like, look, just like research my YouTube channel, see like the kind of way that I like doing it, and then from there, like I'll give you my templates, and then you can just go and do it for me now. And yeah, so that's another thing that she's gonna be helping me out with. And in the future, like I want to be able to outsource mixing. Like I want to be able to like literally only do producing, and then like when the beat's done, I'm like, oh, this beat's done. let me find my person in Thailand or whatever that can mix the song pretty fucking kick ass for like 20, 30 or $40. And in that way, I don't have to sit down for 3 or 4 hours or 5 hours going hard trying to mix my own beat, because I usually tend to take a lot longer because it's my own song and I'm always like overthinking shit. So yeah, no, that's definitely like the next process thing that I'm gonna do. But like, you know, baby step at a time. I just want to test this thing out first and see how it goes.
Yeah. The other section of the book too that I mentioned actually at the beginning that's part of Deal is the automation section. And you've heard me talk about this 1,000 times before. There's so many tasks as producers that you can automate. Again, this is what I talked about as well when we were talking about the E-Myth Revisited in that episode. When you draw out the job description and what tasks you're doing for each of those jobs, and you write down the dollar per hour that it takes to do that, you start to realize that there's a lot of things you can automate. There's so many things that you can analyze and automate, and you can review this monthly. Every month you can go in and look at your jobs and be like, oh, I didn't realize I'm doing this one thing now that I can now automate and outsource or do whatever, and it's done. Automation is fucking key. That's how you're going to become efficient. That's how you're going to become net positive. That's how you're going to free up more of your time. That's how you're going to be able to live the new rich lifestyle.
100%. I completely forgot because I've been doing this for a while already. This is actually the very first thing I did when I got down here. I was cleaning up this house and I was like, man, this is taking me a few hours to do, like more than 3 or 4 hours to like clean all the floors, windows, clean up my sink, like
probably
bathroom.
Hire someone.
I did. I hired someone.
Yeah.
$15 a week. She comes in, does my laundry, cleans up my entire house. It makes everything look, and it frees up all that energy and mental headspace, and it just being in a clean environment. I'm like, oh, like it makes me think clear. So, and I don't have to ever fucking do that ever again. And also she doesn't do it anymore, but she used to meal prep for me because before I used to eat like chicken and stuff, but now I just cook all my steak like raw, so I just cook it in the pan. So she doesn't do that for me anymore. But like that helped me out too when she was meal prepping all my meals too. So yeah, fucking A, man.
Yeah, automation is fucking key. It is the one thing, it's what takes you from being an amateur to a pro. It really is. It's what sets aside the winners from the losers, are the people who can automate as much as possible because it frees up your time. Do you use Zapier for anything?
You know what? I was using it to integrate like an auto response from Pipedrive, but I've actually stopped using Pipedrive in the CRM for a while just because like I think I got what I needed out of it. I got a consistent flow of mixing clients coming in. But I'm going to be going back into that because now I'm training this girl. We're using HubSpot now. But yeah, I'm training this girl how to use a CRM. And I'm going to see if I can reintegrate that with HubSpot. So yeah, no, I didn't go deep into it. I know there's so much more you can do with it, but like I wanted a quick auto response. If someone did certain keywords where it's like, oh, like what is the price exclusive license, and it's like immediately it's like there's an auto response or somebody bought a beat for me already, then I immediately have like an automation that basically fills out their name. It gives them like, hey, thank you for purchasing this title beat name. And from there, I don't have to fucking worry about like saying thank you all the time. It just does it for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Zapier is very, very powerful. I think I've talked about, I know I've talked about it before, but if you don't know what Zapier is it's an automation system that connects apps with other apps that normally would not be able to connect with each other and talk to each other. And you can create automation systems that are, you can make it do like 30 different things within a split second. So if you look at a task that takes you 20, 30 minutes and you realize that it can all be automated and it can all be automated with Zapier, you can take a 30-minute task that you might be doing every day or every week and turn that into a split-second task that you don't touch, and it automatically generates for you passively in the background. The value in that is unbelievable because you freed up your time and you don't have to hire anyone for it's Zapier's. It's just it's so powerful. There's unbelievable amounts of power in that. So I think we're slowly coming down to the end here. I want to get into the last segment that I want to talk about is how people can kind of follow what you're not necessarily follow your story, although we'll plug your socials and whatnot, but follow your lead in the sense of how can people do what you've done, because what you've done is you've drastically changed your life in 5 months, and you for the better. I don't think you would ever want to change what you've done, and I think it's probably made you a better person than you've ever been. So how can producers or other artists do the same thing? What tips do you have to give them? How do you go from fuck it, I'm going to pick everything up and move? How do you approach that? Now, obviously you had your dad in Ecuador, so that's important, but I think, people are still able to move into places where they don't know people.
100%. So, I wasn't really getting not interviews, but appointments set up with people in different apartments and whatnot. So I guess first of all is figure out what is it that you want to do? Do you want to be a 100% mobile nomad, not nomad, but someone that can work from anywhere really? You want your business to be 100% online. If that's the case, and if you're already making, let's just say $1,000 US a month, you're good to go, man. You can go to one of these countries and you can be living very comfortably, and you're gonna have all this extra free time that you can put towards putting it back into your business, as opposed to having to grind and hustle in some other job that's not benefiting you at all and your purpose. So number one, get very specific with what it is that you want. And if it is hey, I want to be able to do that, and you're in a position where it's hey, I don't have a girl here that's holding me down, or all these other things, if you're in that position, then I would say 100% do it, and where to start is number one, a 4-hour work week. Talks about different countries that are really dirt cheap to live in and whatnot. I was actually planning to do Thailand first, because there's already a big nomadic community there. So when you go there, even though you don't speak the language, a lot of people there already speak English. There's a lot of tourists there that speak English as well. So you actually be probably better off moving there versus trying to find some other country to move. I don't mean to interrupt, but I think I saw a video where you can live in Thailand for $10 a day. It's dirt cheap. Yeah, it's actually more expensive. You can live like a king for $10 a day. Yeah, man, it's actually more expensive for me to be living here in Ecuador than it is to Thailand. But I'm not gonna lie, I was still kind of scared. I was going there completely no, I don't know anyone there. So I was kind of you know what? There's purpose behind me coming here to Ecuador. I wanted to polish up my Spanish. I've been saying this for years. I'm I'm gonna learn how to speak better Spanish, and I just didn't have the discipline to sit down and listen to Rosetta Stone, do Rosetta Stone, or go to some Spanish course in my local community. I was if I come here, I have to learn Spanish. And yeah, it's helped up my Spanish vastly. I can speak Spanish a lot better now. So that was it was killing a couple of birds. A couple of stones. Wow, I can't even talk right now. Killing a couple birds with. God damn it. We both fucked it up. I've been fasted for 9 hours. I should be eating right now, but whatever. But yeah, you're killing a couple of. I'm not even going to try to figure out. Birds with a stone. There we go. A couple birds with one stone. Exactly. So yeah, that was the reason behind going to Ecuador. So before doing that, if you have a passport, if you're American or Canadian, you can basically go anywhere. Everyone's going to fucking take you in. But yeah, no. So I remember I was looking up for apartments through Facebook Marketplace, and then just already asking questions hey, what would you require to move in? And they're oh, you would just need first and last. And it's they'll ask you what kind of occupation you have, and you're I'm a producer. So there is no monthly salary that we make. There's some months that I can make 4,000 or 5,000 US, and then other months where it's only 1,800. It's all over the place. And then they're to them, all the people that I've messaged, that was fine with them. That's already more money than doctors are making down here anyways. They're okay, fuck, please come here, please rent, because they want people in. They want, especially if they know you're coming from Canada, they immediately assume you have money. You're oh, this person has money. I don't mean to interrupt again, but I think it's Barbados. Was it Barbados? That is paying people from the US. Hang on, Yeah, it's Barbados. Okay, yeah, Barbados is currently paying US residents to come and live in Barbados. Their unemployment rate is at something 42%, and they need to boost up the economy, so they're investing in people who I
I don't even necessarily think you need to be super wealthy, but they're investing in Americans to move there, to work there, if you can work remotely and just live there. Just pay your rent there, buy your food there, buy things from the country to boost up the economy. And if you're a business owner, there's no better place to go there than that type of area, because there's people who need money. There's people who need jobs there. And so I'm sure you can find people who will be dedicated workers that you can hire for dirt cheap. So you're helping a community, you're helping people in need, which is very significant, and you can be really freeing up your time and making yourself more efficient. But anyways, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but just wanted to make that point real quick right there.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I believe if you're making like over 50,000 US, like they'll let you in. Like you're like, oh, you're making over 50 grand a
year.
You
don't even need a visa. You don't need proof of ID or anything.
Yeah, they'll just let you in. I was thinking about it, but I was like, man, no, my mission here isn't done. Like I was literally just in the process of like scoping out someone to become my assistant, and then that thing opened up. I'm like, next time. But yeah, no. So there's websites also like Expat, for example. I use that a lot, and that helps you kind of find like a safe country. It teaches you like, hey, what the cost of living is like, how much you're going to be paying for like food, and yeah.
Did you say expat?
I think it's called Expat. I remember I was like looking at it a lot before I came here. So yeah, it's like what the average cost of rent is, and from there it's like you can kind of do the numbers in your head. It's like, oh, like if my cost of living based on what I know right now, how much I'm going to be buying for food, how much, you know, like my internet, what that's going to cost, travel costs, like taxis, for example. Like I was thinking of getting a car here, but like no, it's like it's almost stupid to buy a car here because transportation is so cheap here. Like everything's Uber or Cabify or even taxis.
Gas is probably insanely expensive there.
Oh no, it's actually really cheap here. Okay.
Oh really?
In Canada, it was okay. When I left Canada, gas was like $1.27 a liter. Here, it's $1.50 a gallon. So it's like it's way cheaper. So yeah, I know. So I'm like, yeah, I could get a car, but I'm like, man, but like, I don't want to complicate my life. I actually kind of like want to live like a very minimalistic, nomadic, where it's like, if I want to get out of here and go to Thailand and fucking next month, then like, I'm fucking going. I don't need to worry about selling a car anymore. So yeah, no, using a website like Expat really helps a lot too. If you want to.
Is that EXPAT or is it XPAT?
I'm going to go on Google here real quick. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, no, just people who like, gone to different countries, tell you what to expect. Like, oh, it's relatively safe if you live around here, yada, yada, yada.
Okay, interesting.
So
I'm going to be trying to convince my girlfriend over the next year or two to move out of the country now.
Man, if she had, I wish like, you know, like my ex was on that, but like for her business was like, she had to be in Canada. She had to be working there. So like the idea was already kind of coming into my head even before the breakup, but it really, really like, solidified after it because I was like, man, there's nothing tying me down anymore. I can go. But yeah, no, like there's a ton of like online resources of people who've done what you're trying to do. Like even if you just like look up online like, community of like of nomads, people like traveling abroad, working from abroad. There's a ton of people. Like I'm sure like if you went on Google right now and you looked at how to live in Thailand. Like there's like thousands of blogs explaining like, hey, this is how you can do it. These are the places you can live in. Check out these hotels, these restaurants, these internet cafes. So I was like going deep into that because I was actually really set on going to Thailand. But then like I was like, you know what? Like no, like I'm going to start off slow. I'm going to start off with Ecuador, and then maybe next year I'll go to Thailand. But yeah, no. Like if anyone who's trying to do this, like I would just say, man, just do it. All that fear, all those doubts you have in your head, like it's gonna make you like. I feel like I'm a stronger person now for it. I feel like I have less fear to do things now because I've proven to myself. I'm like, fuck, I did it, and like I'm actually thriving right now. So like, what else can I do? And it just gives you more confidence to do other things. So like, I would have never imagined myself hiring an assistant, and now it's like, no, I feel like I can do this. I can train this person properly. I can invest this money, and even if it doesn't work out, whatever. I fucking did it. I tried it out,
and you'll learn shit from that too. You'll have experiences to take on for the next time you hire an assistant.
Exactly. So my advice is just fucking do it. Take Nike's advice and just do it.
Yeah. No, there is. I mean, fuck what your mind is saying. If you're afraid to do it, if you're already thinking about it, and you have the opportunity to do it, just go and fucking do it. I mean, honestly, like worst case scenario aside, take away if you're moving to a third world country like that, take away the fact that you could get if robbed. You know, if you do your research and you find a safe area to live in, then you can almost guarantee that you're not going to be put in that situation. So then, if you're not going to be put in that situation, what's the next worst case scenario? And this is actually what the what Tim Ferris has you do. He has a few different scenarios that he has you do worst case scenario for. And I think one of them is like, well, if you have to leave and come back, like, what's the worst case scenario? Like, at that point, the worst case scenario literally is you're there for a couple of weeks and then you move back. You just pick up another plane ticket and go back home. And then it's like, oh, fucking well. If people make fun of you for that or like shit on you for that, fuck them, dude. At least you had the balls to try it. You can turn around and say, well, what the fuck did you do? What have you done? Because I don't see you trying any ballsy shit like that. You already are on another level with those people. And, you know, it might not work out for you and it might not be what you expected or what you wanted. That's okay. All that matters is that you tried to fucking do it and you went on, and no matter what, you're coming out a bigger and better person out of the experience.
100% agree, man. Like, and like, even now, like people will respect you a lot more too. People like, I'll get DMs like, where are you? Because, you know, I'll put stories up on my Instagram and I'm like, oh, I'm in Ecuador. Like, it's like, what are you doing over there? And I explain the whole, like, wow, I could never imagine myself doing that. Oh my God. Like, wow. And you think, cause now this has kind of become normalized. I'm like, I'm used to this now, but I'm like, yeah, you know what? I used to think like that too. And you kind of becoming like an inspiration to some other people too.
It is very inspiring. And that's why I wanted to have you on this episode, because your story is extremely inspiring. And I guarantee you there's hundreds of producers that are listening to this right now that are possibly in the same situation, that could pick their shit up and leave and still be okay and be living their dream. And, you know, part of what Tim Ferris says as well is he talks a lot about what the nomadic lifestyle, but he traveled all throughout Europe, I think, through those 3 years. He was not in one place for more than a month. So he built a wildly successful business that was making, like, I think he said he was making 6 figures a month on it or something. An insane amount of money, all while traveling through Europe, not ever being in one place at one time. So this right here, he did it just with a laptop. That's all possible. It really comes down to, not to, you know, get into the Gary Vee stuff, but what the fuck are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to spend your time and invest yourself into what you want to do? Because you can fucking pick your shit up and leave and go start a wildly successful business. Like I said at the beginning, now is not that, there's no better time to do it now. COVID aside, because it's difficult to travel with COVID, ignore that. Once that shit is gone, now is the best time to do it. Flights are cheap as fuck right now. If you can play, you know, COVID's probably going to slow down at the beginning of the year of 2021. If you can buy cheap flights and plan your shit out in 6 months, 7 months, around February or March, get the fuck out and go live your life.
And you know what? One of the biggest fears I had too coming here was like, because I built a pretty awesome studio back home, like amazing acoustic treatment. It sounded incredible in there. And I'm like, man, I'm going to be moving to some other country. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't bring my big ass monitors with me. I can't bring my big ass subwoofer with me. But like, you know, as a producer, you can adapt. I bought these like little shitty PreSonus Eras E5s. It cost like a few $100. I bought this sub pack that has changed the goddamn game. I love this goddamn thing, man. This is incredible. And like, it's helped out my low end mixing like massively. It's made producing more enjoyable because I don't need to like crank up the sub bass and annoy everyone. It's like I could just do it like comfortably here. And yeah, it's like as a producer, you can have a mobile setup. You can have like a little laptop, little MIDI keyboard, bring your Apollo interface, your little crappy speakers. It can all fit in one suitcase under 50 or 60 pounds, whatever your restrictions are. For Air Canada, for me, it was 60 pounds. So yeah, no, like you can totally do it. You can, and like if all this shit, you know, gets stolen or something, well, whatever. It was just It was just maybe like a few hundred, not a few hundred, but maybe like under $1,000 worth of gear. Well, aside from the Apollo was like 12 or $1,300. But you can bring like a crappy little Focusrite interface. Like I don't know why I brought the Apollo. But like I have other audio interfaces, but I brought that one because I was like, oh, I might need it for. No, I don't even know why I brought this mic. Like I'm not recording anyone, but I'm glad I did because I was able to do this podcast with you.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But yeah, no, like that was my biggest concern too. I was like, oh, how am I going to be able to get a proper clean mix or produce without being in my studio environment? But here's the awesome part, because as a producer, you want to get inspired. You want to like change your environment. Yo, let me tell you, man, when I came here, my fucking creativity was coming out of the ass, bro. I was like ideas were flying out because I wasn't used to being in my dark little home studio basement with my acoustic treatment set up and everything. Like, no, I was in a completely different environment with this inspiring like view that I have with the mountains right now. And man, I feel like my whole sound completely changed. Like I went from making like really like sad sounding music, and now all my music now is like it's more upbeat, it's better energy. And it's like when you get bored, it's like, oh wow, go fucking rent out some other place, or go to an Airbnb for like $20 a night, and it's like a pimpin' ass Airbnb, and get your creativity juices flowing and inspiring again. So, and it's like when you're bored of this country, fucking pick up and go to another country and then get more, you know. Yeah, so, and it's like, man, like I was already getting so pumped up because like before COVID started, I was able to do a few things in this country. But yeah, just hearing the sounds of this country, and I was like, oh, like I want to make music using some of these dope ass sounds. But unfortunately, yeah, you know, everything being closed down, I wasn't able to like go further into that. But yeah, no. So all those fears, I don't think you got to worry about it.
Yeah. You know, and I do want to be specific too. We are talking to those people who are wanting to go do this thing. You know, what we're talking about here isn't for everyone. There's just as many people who this is for. There's just as many, if not more, people who this type of lifestyle is not for and might not be good for you. And that's okay too. Like what is the key important thing to take away from this episode is that you should be doing what you want to do that makes you happy. If you're needing a specific change similar to Danny's situation, that might be what you need and it changes your entire life. But it could also be that you listen to one 10-minute segment about us talking about your diet, and all you need to do is change your diet and your entire lifestyle is changed and you're beyond happy now. That is just as, you know, that could be just as important as just picking up your entire life and moving it to a different country. So, you know, what we're talking about here isn't necessarily for everyone, but if you think you're one of those people, man, do research, read the 4-Hour Workweek, figure out how you could do what Danny's doing. And you know what? Maybe you don't pick up your entire life. Maybe you just take a month hiatus and you go live in Thailand for a month and check it out and see what it's like. So, you know, you don't have to change everything forever. You can just do a 1-month hiatus where you go and live in another country and hang out, see what it's like. And if you're like, you know what, I don't think I want to go back, well, then you can go back, sell all your shit, and then, you know, move to Thailand at that point.
100%. And you don't even like need to leave the country, because honestly, like there are cheaper places to live in Canada. Like I could have gone to Alberta. It's dirt cheap to live in Alberta. Nobody wants to fucking live there. It's cold as hell. Nothing to do there. You could just go to Alberta, or even like for like me, like going like the outskirts of the GTA, which is like the general Toronto area. So moving out of Toronto and like moving like you can do that as well. It'll be cheaper to live there as well. But yeah, no, I feel like that alone is good enough, because I think a lot of people still have the misconception that like, oh, if you're a producer, like you got to be in Atlanta, you got to be in LA, you got to be in Toronto, you got to be in New York, you got to be in these big musical hubs where it's actually really hard to live in there. It is stressful to live in these cities because, again, like the cost of living, like the competition and everything around you. Like for me, I realize I'm like, my market isn't in Canada. Like I'm getting more sales from the United States and Australia, Germany, the UK. Like I'm like, it's global, it's worldwide. Like I don't need to be fucking living in this cultural hub where it's, you know, it's super expensive to live in. And especially now with COVID going on, you know, the benefits of living in those countries aren't even there anymore, because you can't even go out and well, for you guys, it's opening up. For me, it's still kind of closed down over here. But for those like 5 months where everyone was in quarantine, the benefits of living in LA weren't available to you. Like
they weren't.
You're paying the LA tax without getting the LA benefits. And it's like,
And LA's talking about completely locking down until for like over a year. Like, it's insane what they're talking about still staying locked down. And then if you just moved to LA in February and you want to be a big producer, well, say fucking goodbye to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why like Joe Rogan's leaving. There's a reason why Elon Musk is opening up a plant in Texas. I mean,
in Austin. I mean, Joe Rogan's moving here to Austin right now. I'm in Austin.
Oh yeah, you're in you're in a great. If I were to come to the States, I was actually looking at Texas. I was looking at Austin or Houston, but yeah, no, I love what your state is doing, man. Like I wish I was American and I was like part of your state, bro. Like a lot of Canadian things, like it's becoming very snowflake and very soft, and I'm just like, but no, I love what your country's doing, man. I love America. But yeah, anyways, like I'm going off a tangent.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I'm not optimistic about Joe Rogan moving here to Texas. I think a lot of people from LA are gonna follow Joe Rogan because if you want to be successful now in that world, you got to be around Joe Rogan. So I have a feeling a lot of people are about to move to Austin from LA. I have a feeling they're gonna flip Texas to be blue and be very much so like California, which is I don't think it's gonna do well for Texas. So I already told my girlfriend, I was like, well, let's prepare to move out of Texas in about 5 years. So we'll see what happens. But
no way.
But I think that might be it, man. What would you like to plug? I just saw yesterday you posted in your story, and I think on your Instagram page, some rapper had bought a couple of tracks or something for his EP, and dude, the track that you had posted of his was, I'm assuming you produced it. It's fucking crazy good. Holy shit. I loved it. I immediately went to Spotify and added it on my playlist.
Fucking thank you, man. Anyone wondering what that track is? It's called Fever by an artist called Wermer, Wermer. But yeah, no, he bought the beat, I think like a few months ago, sent him an email saying, hey, thanks for purchasing this beat. Anything I could do, let me know. Anyways, I just, one day, like just 2 days ago, I woke up, actually yesterday, actually, I woke up, saw it, he tagged me in something. I'm like, oh, what is this? And I checked it. I was like, wow, this sounds fucking incredible. And then I went out of my way to buy the song. So I had the MP3, downloaded the cover art, create some quick little video, and then put it on my Instagram stories, kind of promote it with some cool motion graphic that kind of reacts to the beat and stuff. And then fucking had friends and like other people like, whoa, this track sounds awesome. And he was like, he was really happy with that too. And he was like, man, we got to work more together and stuff. And I'm like, hey, like I offer custom exclusive beat packages. If you're interested, I can send it to you. Sent it to him. He's like, yeah, we're definitely going to work together. Once we're done with this release promo, we're going to fucking lock in. And I was like, hell yeah, bro. So it's like doing something nice for them, because like he tagged other producers too. I don't know if they've DM'd them and whatnot, but I was really happy with the song. And I was like, I want to like promo this on my Instagram stories. And now we have a project coming up together soon. So
dude, that Fever track is just, it is so, I mean, it's the quality of beats that you're making and the tracks that you're making is unreal. When did you make that track while you were in Ecuador?
No, this one that came out like a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago.
Damn, it is. So I'm curious to hear what you're producing now. That track is just, it's unreal. So yeah, go check out the EP by Wermer, Lovesick, / Sick of Love EP. It just came out, what, I'm guessing like the other day or the other week?
I guess yesterday. I think it literally just came out yesterday.
Just yesterday. It's fucking great. Go listen to it. It's incredible. Is there anything else you want to plug, like your website or anything where people can buy beats from you or get mixing and mastering done from you?
Yeah. So actually, I'm not taking any more mixing and mastering. It's
okay.
It's only for existing clients from like back home who like we have projects together we're still working on. But I mean, if there's any artists or anyone listening to this, and yeah, if you want a custom exclusive beats, you can visit my website, www.cincosound.com. There, it links you to my productions that I have, like songs that I finished with people, and also it gives you, it sends you to my beat store as well. So all my existing beats, if you want to license something, it's all there as well. I mean, that's about it. I mean, Instagram, it's at Cinco Sound, but like I'm barely active on it. I'm going to actually start revamping. It's the reason why I hired that assistant. So yeah, no, if you want to get in contact with me, like, you can message me through there. If you have any questions or anything, I'm always happy to answer them.
Hell yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming back on. This is fucking awesome. You know, we're gonna have to make this like a yearly thing. Have you come back on. We'll find a subject to talk about. And this was awesome, dude. I loved having you back on. Your story is fucking incredible. What you've done it really is awesome. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you, man. And you're killing it. And just keep up the work, dude.
Fucking appreciate it, bro. I love what's happening with you too, man. Like I see the podcast growing and you being consistent. And I'm like, dude, that's fucking. It's like this competition anxiety. I'm like, okay, now I want to go harder too. Yeah, I see this man making moves. I gotta make some moves too now. So
yeah.
So yeah, man. It's great talking to you, bro. Always great energy. So of course, man, you want to have me back on here again in a year? Maybe I'll be in Thailand or some other, or Brazil or wherever the fuck. Hell yeah, man. I'm so down for it.
Hell yeah. Well, Danny, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll connect soon. And everyone, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace out. Hey guys, thanks for checking out today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with Danny here. If you want to go ahead and join in on the Facebook discussion that we've got for Electronic Dance Money, where we talk business stuff, go to facebook.com, look up Electronic Dance Money Community, head to enviousaudio.com/episode 34 to check out all of the show notes, and head on over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review the show. I would really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Can't wait to see you on the next episode. Take care and be safe.